Unmatched is famous for having an extensive roster of playable characters, but with so many matchups available, it is extremely difficult to play them all. In this series, we will be analyzing a variety of matchups in detail and hopefully discover some hidden gems. Join me as we explore the latest matchup of the month. If you're a fan of the channel, consider supporting me on Patreon. For as little as $1 per month, you can help me continue to bring you premier Unmatched content. Unlock exclusive rewards by becoming a patron today. What's up guys, Zero Skater here, and we are finally back for another matchup of the month. This is going to be the May episode, and I know it's a little bit late as we are already into June, so I apologize for that, but I have been very busy as I recently started up school again. So that has been taking up most of my free time, but I promise we are going to catch up with all of the episodes, so don't worry. But this is a really exciting one because we have this time Squirrel Girl versus Sherlock Holmes. Now, Squirrel Girl has become known to be one of the weaker fighters to come out as of late out of the Teen Spirit box, and Sherlock, as we all know, is one of the best characters in the game. So, off the bat, you'd think, does Squirrel Girl really have a chance here up against one of the best fighters in the game? Well, you're going to have to stick around to find out, but let me tell you that it's a lot closer than it might seem, and it's very interesting. So I'm excited to show it off. I'll be playing against Chad as always for this one. And if you guys missed the last episode, that was actually the April episode with Deadpool. So if you guys are Deadpool fans, definitely go make sure you check that one out. It was a lot of fun, lots of silliness in that episode. It was kind of like the April Fool's episode. We played in person, which was really cool, so definitely go check it out if you missed it. But I'm excited to get into this one, so without further ado, we will check out Squirrel Girl versus Sherlock Holmes. But as always, guys, be sure to attack that like button if you enjoy the video and subscribe for more Unmatched content. And with that said, let's jump on into Squirrel Girl versus Sherlock. Alright, so here we are on Vorpal board as always to check out our first fighter being Squirrel Girl. Now, Squirrel Girl is a melee fighter with only a move of 2 and only 13 health. So the stats off the bat, not very good. Her ability is Go Nuts. So at the start of your turn, you summon a squirrel in a space adjacent to Squirrel Girl. Squirrels are small fighters, and they do not start with any squirrels on the board. So the squirrels are your melee sidekicks. They are all 1 health sidekicks, and you can have up to 8 of them. So the way small fighters work are they are kind of like tokens. You can pass through them, your opponents can pass through them, and they can also pass through you and the opponents. So again, very similar to tokens, you can do some tricky things with them, like they can occupy the same space as a hero or a sidekick, any fighter, right? So if on item maps a fighter is camping an item token, the squirrel can move onto that same space and use that item token right out from under them. So that's a really cool little interaction. And the small fighters, it's tricky because they're considered to be adjacent to spaces, typical adjacency like normal, and also these spaces that they are in. So it's really a lot to think about and a lot to manage during the game, both as the Squirrel Girl player and as the opponent. So in like tournament play, if you're playing with any kind of timer, I think it's going to be very, very difficult, and it can just be a lot of overload mentally trying to position so many different fighters. But it's a fun little concept, right? And it's really cool for casual play, and some people may love this. But anyways, at the start of your turn, you get to summon a squirrel. So much like Wukong, you put a squirrel into an adjacent space, and that actually has to be adjacent any of the spaces surrounding Squirrel Girl, but there could be another opposing fighter in that space that you summon it. So that really doesn't matter. But you're automatically going to get a squirrel turn after turn until you build up to 8 of them. Once you have 8 on the board, when you summon a new one, you'll just simply move one of your other ones that are already placed on the board to an adjacent space at the start, and it is a mandatory ability, so every turn you do have to summon a squirrel. Now, there are some effects that let you summon squirrels, as we'll get into, but you have to build them up over time inherently with this ability, and that can take some time to get going, and a lot of your card effects really rely on the squirrels and rely on having a large amount of them in order to really be effective. So at the start of the game, she's very, very weak because her deck is full of useless cards almost. So she takes a little time to get going, but once you do get going, she can be pretty deadly, as we will see with this first card, which is Kick Butts. So it's a 1 value attack. It says during combat, increase the value of this card by +1 for each squirrel adjacent to the opposing fighter. And there's 3 copies of this in the deck. Now you can have up to 8 squirrels max on the board, so this card can bump up to a max of a 9 value attack, which is just ridiculous for a single card, right? Like we've seen Beast Form that you can discard cards to get up to a 9, or Forever Hide similarly. But just a standalone single card being a 9 is just crazy. But you do have to have all 8 squirrels adjacent in order to do that, so there's definitely a barrier to use this effectively. And an interesting thing too with Squirrel Girl, some people might love this. At the very bottom it says, "See, math comes in useful even in battle." So there's little flavor text, little quotes on the bottom of a lot of these cards. Not every single card, but most of them. And so people who are really big fans of Squirrel Girl in the comics may really enjoy those. So it's a neat little thing. But Kick Butts is a massive attack and definitely a reason to be concerned about the horde of squirrels. So we'll go into the next card. This is one of the worst cards in the deck, honestly. We went from one of the best to one of the worst, being this one, Fuzzball Special. So just a 3 value attack. After combat, move each squirrel up to 3 spaces. And at the very bottom it says, anyone else doing this move is copying from me. So apparently this is kind of a play on a special move from the comics. I don't know. I'm not very familiar, but that's what I've heard. But anyways, just moving your squirrels up to 3 spaces after combat is not really that impactful because you can move them all during your maneuver anyways. So it's really easy to position them how you please. And with this being a Squirrel Girl only attack, it's not really that useful. And also only a 1 boost value is a little sad. I wish this card would have been maybe a 3 boost. That would have made her a lot more viable, I think. It would have helped her out a lot because as we'll get through the cards, we'll see that there are no boost values in this deck that are a 3 or higher. Everything is either a 1 or a 2, and that really hinders her movement capabilities. But I digress. We're going to move on to the next card. So that's going to be Squirgility, a 3 value blue card. After combat, move Squirrel Girl up to 3 spaces. She may move through sidekicks, and you do not count movement for spaces containing sidekicks. So that's a neat little effect because when it just says sidekicks, it could be an opposing sidekick as well. So the clones from Wukong or anything like the Jabberwock, whatever it is, you can move through them and you don't count your movement for those spaces. So if there's kind of like a string of sidekicks, you can move through all of them without counting any and then move your 3 spaces after that. So you can get a lot of distance with this movement effect, and it definitely will help you out in matchups against ranged fighters. So when they come in to attack you, you can move close to them and close that gap so that you're ready to attack. Next card is going to be Get 'em Tippy Toe. Now this is actually surprisingly one of the best cards in the deck because it's a 3 value versatile and it says after combat, summon 2 squirrels in any space. So both of the squirrels have to be summoned in the same space, but it can be any space on the entire board, which is really good early game when you want to ramp up your squirrel generation really quickly so that you get a lot of your strong cards online faster and you're not just, maneuvering around in the early game doing basically nothing. So this is a crucial card. You want to see this as early as possible. And with 3 copies in the deck, that is very good to have. And at the very bottom, it says, let's see him squirrel out of this. So really good card here with Get 'em Tippy Toe. And speaking of really good cards, we see Squirmish, obviously a play off of Skirmish. It's very similar because it's a 4 value versatile, which is fantastic. And it says after combat, summon a squirrel in Squirrel Girl's space. Then you place Squirrel Girl in any space in her zone. So it's kind of like a disengage with a tacked on effect of summoning a squirrel in your previous space. Or almost like a Sly Monkey from Wukong's deck, basically. But a 4 value instead of Wukong's 2 makes it a lot better. And again, this card will ramp up your squirrel generation in the early game, so a great card to see early on. It says, what? It is absolutely a word. Squirmish? Come on. Next card, we're going to see Unbeatable Squirrel Girl. So 4 value versatile yet again. Great baseline, right? And it says immediately, if there are 4 or more squirrels adjacent to the opposing fighter, you cancel all effects on your opponent's card and ignore its value. So this card is just insane, right? It's kind of like a highway robbery from Robin Hood, but it's a 4, and it's also a versatile. So you could potentially set up to like guard yourself from a massive beast form lethal in the right situation. But you got to have 4 or more squirrels adjacent to the opposing fighter. So if you want to use this defensively, you probably, to be safe, want to put all 4 squirrels in your own space. Now, I should have mentioned this earlier when talking about small fighters and the squirrels, but you can stack up to 4 squirrels on the same single space. You can't have more, so you could have 2 stacks of 4 somewhere on the board. But if a small fighter takes damage, then all small fighters of that same type in that same space also take the damage. So if you have a stack of 4 squirrels and your opponent attacks it and deals a damage, then the whole stack is going down, not just the one that the opponent attacked. So it's really important. As Squirrel Girl, you want to spread out your squirrels so that they're not all going to get killed off in one card. It would take multiple attacks to clear them off one by one versus, you know, toppling a whole stack of them in one go. So you got to be really careful about that. But if you want to set up an unbeatable Squirrel Girl on defense, you can stack 4 squirrels in your own space. So when your opponent comes to attack you, well, you guarantee that this effect is going to be active, right? Because you are in the same space with the squirrels. So that means that the 4 squirrels are going to be adjacent to the opponent. And when you want to attack with this, well, that's easy because you just surround your opponent with the squirrels in different spaces, and you just attack your opponent with this, and it's going to go through whatever they have. And even if they want to feint it to prevent you from canceling and ignoring their card, you're still going to be dealing 2 damage over the top of their feint, so that's pretty good. So overall, this is one of the best cards in the deck, and definitely something to watch out for if you're the opponent. Next up, we're going to see Dash. So the same Dash we know and love, you know, 3 value attack. It says Quicksilver, more like Slow Silver. But anyways, you just after combat move Squirrel Girl up to 3 spaces, so pretty decent card. Next up, we're going to see Feint. Again, we know Feint, but there's only 2 copies in this deck, not your standard set of 3. So a little bit lacking in the cancels, but you do have the unbeatable Squirrel Girl if you really need it. And Feint, obviously, 2 value versatile, cancels all effects on your opponent's card immediately. So not for the faint of heart. Next up, we're going to finally see the first card that the squirrels are able to use, because up to this point, it's all been Squirrel Girl specific. But this card, Call of the Mild, is a 2 value any, and it's a versatile, which is good. It says, during combat, if there are 4 or more squirrels in your fighter's zone, the value of this card is 4 instead. So again, we're seeing 4 or more squirrel requirement. That's kind of a theme in this deck. So you got to get a mass amount of squirrels before your cards start to do something. But if you got 4 or more, this is a 4 instead. So the squirrels can block for 4 value if they really need to. But most often you're going to be using this as an attack, I think, for the squirrels. And after combat, if you won the combat, you draw 2 cards. Now, that could be good if you're trying to be aggressive, but honestly, I think it's a downside a lot of the time because Squirrel Girl, with her movement, you know, stat not being very good, she often has the initiative in combat and needs to approach the opponent. And that means she doesn't have too much of a fatigue game, so drawing the cards could be a downside, but it could also be a benefit in certain situations, so you're just going to have to look at the game state and judge at the time. But Call of the Mild, pretty good. And the next one is the only squirrel-specific card, being Bite of Steel. So a 2 value attack says during combat, if there's 4 or more squirrels in the opposing fighter's zone, the value of this card is 5 instead. So actually a very strong attack for the squirrels. And you're going to swarm your opponent, you're going to attack. They're going to know for sure that it's a 2 value card being thrown at them because it can either be the Bite of Steel or the Call of the Mild. Both of which bump from 2 up to a higher value, Call of the Mild being 4, Bite of Steel being a 5. So the opponent has to respect any attacks that the squirrels make as long as there are 4 or more of them, with Bite in the opposing fighter's zone, with Call of the Mild in the attacker's zone. But yeah, the opponent has to respect it. So they can't just take squirrel attacks undefended if that's the case. So maybe you can bait out feints with these, which will full cancel them, unfortunately, but at least that's a feint gone, so that Squirrel Girl can hopefully land bigger kick butts later down the line. So yeah, Bite of Steel is actually a really, really good card. And it says much improved over the Bite of Plush, obviously. And then we're going to get into the last few cards in the deck being some scheme cards, and they're actually very, very strong. So let's kick it off with Eat Nuts. So Squirrel Girl recovers 2 health and then you summon a squirrel in a space adjacent to Squirrel Girl. So this helps ramp up your squirrel generation in the early game, but unfortunately, you don't want to play this until you've taken damage, and the opponent might just choose not to deal you damage before you ramp up your squirrels. So I don't know. It's still a great effect, and recovering 2 health, it is a pass, so it does give you some kind of fatigue game here. And it says this is a normal side effect of eating nuts. So eat nuts and you'll recover 2 health. You know, I didn't make this stuff up. So next card, we're going to see Horde of Squirrels. It is choose a space with 4 or more squirrels adjacent to it, and you deal 2 damage to a fighter in that space. So you walk up, you surround your opponent with the squirrels, you play Horde of Squirrels, you deal 2 auto damage. It's also a pass. Very good. It smells nicer than you'd think in there, okay, apparently. Looks like it would smell pretty dang bad, though, if you're being surrounded by a horde of squirrels, but whatever. 2 copies of this in the deck makes 4 cards so far that are passes. And let's, last but not least, look at Network of Spies. So you look at an opponent's hand and you choose 1 card for them to discard. Very similar to Eliminate the Impossible from Sherlock, as we'll see. But if one of their fighters is adjacent to 4 or more squirrels, you choose 2 cards instead. So, oh my gosh, is this an insane card. A single scheme that looks at your opponent's hand and can discard 2 cards out of their hand is ridiculous. We've only seen that, I believe, in Spike's deck before, and that's Spike, so some of you might not have ever even seen it because the site. Drusilla has to, one of the opponents has to be on a space with a shadow token, which almost never happens. That's Spike's problem. But anyways, Network of Spies, you can force it to happen because all you got to do is surround them with 4 or more squirrels, and then you play this. You look at their hand, you rip their 2 best cards out, you have hand knowledge, you got rid of 2 great cards. It's insane. And very easy to trigger the double discard versus the single discard. But you can still use it as a single discard in a pinch if you really absolutely need to for whatever reason. Now, altogether, Squirrel Girl, again, has an issue with initiative. She is most likely going to be forced to approach the opponent, and with none of her boost values being more than a 2, that means she has a max move of 4, which is really, really bad. That's worse than King Arthur, because at least he can move for 5 in certain situations a couple times a game. And he also has Merlin, who's ranged, which helps him out a lot. But Squirrel Girl has no ranged fighters. Yes, the squirrels can attack, but they only have 6 cards to attack with, and the opponent doesn't have too many mind games in terms of what it's going to be. It's going to be a 4 or a 5, either one, you know. But your biggest cards, like Unbeatable Squirrel Girl and Kick Butts, you really need Squirrel Girl to get in order to attack with those. And that might be hard because on certain maps, the opponent can just constantly run away and get more than 4 spaces away from Squirrel Girl herself. And Squirrel Girl will literally not get a chance to go in and attack with these big payoff cards, which is very sad. But on a tighter map, that's not an issue. So Squirrel Girl really likes tighter maps. And the thing is, though, not all matchups, the opponent, even on a bigger map, is going to be able to run away the whole game because of these 5 amazing passes right here in the deck. Because this pass heals Squirrel Girl for 2 health, so it's almost like a double pass, because when you're considering fatigue damage, every maneuver that you take in fatigue deals 2 damage. So this is going to stop you from taking a maneuver the turn you play it by using it as a pass, and it's also going to heal you 2 health, which is kind of like a whole extra maneuver you can take in fatigue. And then this one, the Horde of Squirrels, is very similar because it deals 2 damage to the opponent and also saves you a maneuver. So that's like an extra maneuver they will not get to take in fatigue because they took the auto damage from this pass. And then the Network of Spies is insane value. So if your opponent has any passes in their deck, well, you can rip them out of their hand with Network of Spies, which is helping you out immensely when it comes to fatigue. So Squirrel Girl's actually got a decent fatigue game, and that's really interesting, and it's very, very crucial in certain matchups when the opponent wants to just run away the whole game, and if it's on a big map you can't reach them, well, at least you can reach them with squirrels and attack as passes with your squirrels. But in that case, you don't want to be winning with Call of the Mild, so you got to be a little bit careful. But Bite of Steel is a fantastic attack for the squirrels to use as passes. And then you have these amazing schemes. So maybe you can force the opponent to have to approach you. On a big map, that's really your main goal. You have to get the opponent to approach you. But on a small map, again, you have you can move 4. So as long as from like center stage on the map, you can move and hit the opponent with a boost of 2, then you got nothing really to worry about, and you can play like a legit game. So I don't know. She is very complex. There's a lot to think about with positioning both her and the squirrels. When to stack squirrels, when to spread them out, when to, you know, try to draw off Call the Mild, or when you have to make sure you don't draw because it'll be a death sentence for fatigue. And there's just a lot to it. So she's really complicated, but if you like that kind of thing, you might enjoy this fighter a lot, because there's a lot of little decisions to make that can make a huge impact in the outcome of your game. But very, very cool to see small fighters introduced into the game, and maybe we'll see more in the future. But anyways, I've talked long enough. That's Squirrel Girl for you. Let's move on and check out Sherlock Holmes.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of I'm Not Getting Paid for Doing John's Job. And today we will be going over Sherlock Holmes and his loyal sidekick, Dr. Watson. So without further ado, let's just hop in by looking at the character card. So we see Sherlock Holmes here is melee. He has 16 health. We'll talk about healing in a second if he has any. We see that Dr. Watson is his sidekick, staying at 8 health. Again, we'll see if there's any healing. And Dr. Watson is ranged. So already that's incredibly good. Just seeing that you do have some range added to this, because melee fighters generally are weaker or are inherently weaker by being melee. But their cards and stats and all that generally make up for it. But it's very handy to have a ranged sidekick. And then we'll just go ahead and look at the ability. Effects on Holmes and Dr. Watson cards cannot be canceled by an opponent. Effects on any cards can be canceled. So basically the most important effects in your deck cannot be canceled, and some of the lesser ones, those might be fainted, and that's okay. And then we finally see that both of them are moved too. Not looking at like everything yet. 16 health is pretty good, right? We've seen fighters on the lower end as low as 13, and we've seen fighters as much as 27. So different sides of the spectrum, but I think 16 is pretty good, especially when we see what kind of healing he has in this deck. But 16 to me feels pretty great. And just rough looking at the deck distribution here, we see that Holmes has 2 attack cards, 13, I believe, versatile cards, 2 defensive cards, 7 schemes, and then 6 Watson cards. So I wasn't originally including the Watson cards in that, and that's because you know, they're kind of secondary to how I would look at the deck when I'm looking at, okay, what all can I defend with? What all can I attack with? Because all of those decisions hinge upon whether or not my sidekick is alive. And if my sidekick dies early, then I would treat these as dead cards, which I think is a good way to look at it. So obviously, if you're getting full value out of your sidekick, great. But there's a lot of sidekicks where that doesn't happen, like Jabberwock or Wigloss, where you're not getting what you might say full value for. Versus Jackalope, right, where you're almost always considering the 6 damage from Jackalope horns because you're able to defend so well. So anyway, we'll talk about how easy it is to keep Watson alive in a second, but just wanted to give that deck distribution. Quite different from Medusa, the one that I did earlier when we saw that deck distribution. But we do see, I think it's often considered that Sherlock doesn't have a lot of defenses, and that's not true. He's got 15 cards that he can defend with. Now, we can talk about the quality of those defenses and the fact that he has very little draw being the main reason why it feels like he doesn't have a lot of defenses. But just to say he doesn't have a lot of defenses, I think is kind of a misnomer, just because I think 15 is pretty good. Half your deck is a defense, so every maneuver, ideally, you'd be drawing 1 defense, which is pretty good, assuming your opponent can only attack you once every turn. So without further ado, let's go ahead and hop into it. We see Sherlock Holmes. The game is afoot. This might be the first time I've read through all of the names of the cards for a while. I haven't haven't had to do that in a while. But we see it's a boost 2, it's a 5 value attack, and move Holmes up to 3 spaces. Now remember, this is a Holmes card, which means that it cannot be feinted. So when you attack with this, you will always be getting your movement effect unless your opponent can stop movement specifically. You'd only see that in the case of like T-Rex with a terrifying roar. So this card, very good. You definitely don't want to feint it because you'd just be taking 3 versus actually value blocking it and stopping that 5 damage from going through. Next we see Feint, which is one of his 3 copies of an any card. So we see that his ability is pretty good because he only has 3 cards that it really applies to. And one of those is Feint, which it doesn't really matter because if your opponent is canceling a feint, okay, you got rid of one of their feints. Not really sure if you want to do that. You rarely ever see an offensive feint from Sherlock. But 3 feints, really good. We're seeing a lot of fighters come out with 2 feints, so 3 feints is obviously pretty good. We see this one, which is an any, Education Never Ends, and I always confuse this effect. So after combat, if you won the combat, your opponent draws 1. So if you either defended with it and took no damage, or you attacked the opposing fighter and you did damage. So it's kind of weird, but basically if you didn't take damage or your opponent does, depending on whether you're attacking or defending with it, your opponent will draw 1 card. If you lost the combat, meaning you either didn't do damage to them when you attacked or you took damage when you defended with it, you will draw 2 cards. This is the not only, but the main source of card draw in his deck. You'll see him take a big hit, but actually build back up his hand. And that's a pretty sweet deal. So 2 copies of these, and this card effect can be feinted. So if you do actually offensive feint into an Education Never Ends, that's pretty good for Sherlock, but also a low value attack would work fine as well. We see study methods here. After combat, if you won the combat, look at your opponent's hand. So we see it's an any as well, so it can be feinted and canceled. And we see that it gives him the ability to look at your hand, which you almost never want your opponent to be able to look at your hand to know exactly what you can either attack or defend with. But in Sherlock's case, that's much worse. So if you can avoid either of these going through, you're in a great spot because then he only gets 2 chances to peek at your hand, assuming you're not on a map that would give you the ability to do so otherwise. But so far, we've seen feints, which are great. They can block, like a second shot where you'd only be taking 1. But if you defend with either of those, any of those any's, you will be taking probably a sizable chunk of damage if they're just attacking with a big attack. Now, if it's a feint, that's the biggest punish. But if you do defend with Education Never Ends, you get card draw out of it, so that's pretty good. And then study methods, you don't really get anything from that. So I generally don't see study methods being used as a defense for Holmes specifically. But let's go ahead and start getting into a lot more of his powerful cards and then before we close it with Watson. So Counterpunch, it is a 3 value versatile attack. If Holmes is adjacent to the opposing fighter, deal 2 damage to that fighter. Oftentimes Holmes is adjacent to the opposing fighter, right? A majority of the fighters in this game are melee. So we'll see this often do 2 damage to the opposing fighter. It can't be canceled. And we see that he has 3 copies of these. So that's oftentimes 6 damage to the opposing fighter, assuming they're melee. If you're up against ranged fighters, you'll probably need to change up your strategy a little bit to figure out how to land all the damage to kill the opponent. But this card is incredibly good. And yeah, the only real things that can get around it is people who have extra range. We're talking Bullseye, Miss Marvel, T-Rex, or ranged fighters who, but in the case of the ranged fighters on certain maps, oftentimes Sherlock can force you to have to be adjacent. So we rarely see this as an attack unless you're up against an opponent doesn't have any movement effects, so where you're guaranteed to get that 2 damage off. But most of the time you'll see it just as a stellar defense to go ahead and get 6 damage in on your opponent. Next we'll see one of the best cards in the game, in my opinion. Deduce strategy, you may change the printed value of the opponent's card to its boost value. So printed value versus actual value, there's some rules clarification that needs, but long story short, if your opponent is attacking you with Bigfoot, let's say Bigfoot is attacking you with his 6 value attack, and it has a 3 value boost, and I defend with Deduce strategy, then I would take no damage because I would set the value of Bigfoot's card to a 3, and I am defending for 3. Incredibly good card. You generally almost always see this on defense unless you're against somebody like, say, who is it? Sinbad, where all of his boost values are 1. So this is guaranteed 2 damage every single attack of these that you make into Sinbad, which is really good if you know that you're able to do damage with it. And so this card is nutty. The only things that really beat this card, which we're seeing more of, are cards that like change the value of their card during combat as well, because Defender resolves first. So in the case of the Bigfoot example, if I defend with this and Bigfoot actually attacked me with his Momentous Shift, which I believe is a 2 boost, it might be a 1 boost, I would set the value of the shift to a 2, and then the shift says if I started this turn in a different space, make the value of this card a 5 instead. So it would set it to a 1, and then my Momentous Shift would overwrite that and set it to a 5. So those are the types of cards we see get over this, or say boostable cards that are already their boost value matches the attack value of their card. In the case of Medusa's Second Shot, which is a boost 3. So very, very good card. We'll see this most of the time. It mitigates a lot of damage in the game. It's one of his best defenses, if not his best defense. But arguably competing for that spot is Elementary. When you play this card, you play it face up and you predict the printed attack value of the opponent's card. If you predicted the correct value, cancel all effects on your opponent's card and ignore its attack value. Now you'll see this is a during combat effect. So I used to think that like an offensive cancel might get around this, like a highway robbery. Even if he correctly guessed a 2, I would cancel the during combat and then ignore his value. However, the effects would be unable to be canceled, right? So in that case, I think you have a 0 value defense into a 0 value attack. But anyway, very good card. We see it also ignores its attack value. That's the difference between this and the standard Fate. So if you're up against Bigfoot and the only way you lose is from like a log, you can go ahead and defend with this and call out a 6. Even if it is something else, you've basically negated one possible worst outcome. So this card will often save you in a number of different ways if you're able to call it correctly. It's a pretty meta card in that you need to be aware of what your opponent has, but it doesn't take too long into the game when you start using these, when you're like, okay, well, I think you have this and I don't want to get hit with one of those. So you can call that out. There's a lot of mind games figuring out exactly what your opponent has, but generally, even if you only land one of those correctly and the other one's just a 3 value block where you prevent the worst case scenario from happening, you're in a good spot. I think in our matchup, we'll probably see me call maybe one of them correctly and John call both of them correctly because he always does. That's it for defense. So we see something that can ignore value and something else that can ignore value depending on how good your boost values are, and how your deck is built. But for example, again, against Bigfoot, Deduce strategy really wrecks him. So anybody where, they don't really have ways to boost their attack values during combat, Deduce strategy will just really wreck you. Now looking at all the schemes, choose an opponent, look at their hand, choose one card for them to discard. Don't really need to get into that much. It's incredibly good. 2 copies of them, and you can pick schemes out of your opponent's hand, which you can't with this next card I'm going to go over. So if there's a really good scheme that your opponent has that you need to get rid of, then you'll often see Eliminate the Impossible. Go ahead and take that out. But very good card. Don't need to say too much about it, but when paired with this, we see kind of some of the problems as to why Sherlock is regarded as so good. And we've got a huge text box here. Confirm suspicion. Choose an opponent and name a value. Your opponent must choose and discard one card matching that attack or defense value. Their hero takes damage equal to the boost value of the discarded card. If they do not have a card of the named value, they must reveal their hand instead. So long story short, basically you will often play Eliminate the Impossible. You will look at the opponent's hand. You will kind of compare this with Confirmed Suspicion for what 2 cards you want to discard and how much damage you want to do. You'll discard, maybe there's up against Medusa. She has a Gaze of Stone and she has a feint in hand. You'll use Eliminate the Impossible to get rid of a feint, and then you'll go ahead and Confirm Suspicion and say a 2. She has to discard the Gaze of Stone and then take 4 damage from it. It's the Wombo combo. You'll see that often. And oftentimes he can do it without engaging with you at all, right? So you still lost 2 cards, so did he. So it's kind of like combat, and you still took damage, but he's all the way on the other side of the map and didn't really have to risk anything to do it. Now that said, that is why Sherlock can suffer from pressure, because he often wants space before he goes ahead and pops both of these. That said, if your opponent's at a low hand count, oftentimes you don't need to. If you've got like one really good defense, you can often look at the opponent's hand and just, take away the best attack options so that you're not really in danger, even if you're adjacent to the opponent, which we might see in our game, depending on the card draw that Squirrel Girl has. But anyway, here we go with Master of Disguise. Choose an opponent, home swap spaces with their hero, deal 1 damage to that hero. So that one is very good, right? 2 auto damage. You kind of, oftentimes you'll see Sherlock take 1 corner and the opponent will take center stage. Then Holmes will swap and then he'll go to the other corner so your opponent can't reach him. Just playing the run game, which can be a little frustrating for some fighters, but we see fighters like Houdini or people that can get across the map really quickly, not really worry about that card in particular too much. But it's a good card in comparison to his other schemes. It's not so good, but if you can do it at the right time to just force tempo on your opponent, you'll just see that he's just a tempo maniac, where your opponent has to overdraw and start wasting cards on discards, and you're already discarding 5 cards from their hand of your choice for the most part, so you can already see where that falls apart there. And then finally, we've got the Watson cards. So we see Service Revolver. It's one of his only boost 3s. I believe the only other one is Elementary, which you never want to use. So if you are in a scenario where he has to boost in for whatever reason, you're in a good spot to force him to have to use the Service Revolvers. But it's a 5 value attack that can be used at range for Dr. Watson. We see here, if Dr. Watson is adjacent to Holmes, they each recover 1 health. So that's 2 points of healing for Holmes if you manage to pull it off. And it can't be feinted. So the only thing that cancels this is some way for the opponent to defensively, if you're attacking with it, for me to defensively move Watson or Holmes away from the other one so that the healing wouldn't go off. But most of the time you might see this defensively. However, if your opponent can often get around Watson or not attack when you're in this scenario. So you will see these generally be thrown out offensively, and then just hoping that your opponent doesn't have any way to move you. And oftentimes they don't. And finally, we see Administer Aid. Place Watson in a space adjacent to Holmes. Holmes recovers 1 health and draw 1 card. So this is the other card draw, but if you just maneuvered, it's kind of a similar thing. However, you get, to bring back Dr. Watson, maybe protect him if he was taking a beating up, in a good spot for ranged fighters and you need to bring him back. It gives you 2 more points of healing, and it does draw you a card, so it's not a pass, so he only has 7 passes, but you'll take the healing and the card draw oftentimes because it's not taking the place of you like getting defenses, for example. So that healing and drawing a card is totally fine. If you maneuvered, then you're just 1 health point down unless for some reason you want to keep more cards in your hand. But anyway, that's what we see from Sherlock. Here's my kind of quick deck analysis of it. We see that he's got a lot of good stuff going for him, but the main weakness is anything that boosts up. So if we see a 2 turn into a 4 or a 2 turn into a 5 or a 1 turn into a 9, we see that get around a lot of his defenses. The biggest thing that many fighters have to worry about is the fact that he can have 5 cancels, and for a lot of fighters, that's really hard to get through. So, but we'll see what happens in this matchup of the month, and I will see you guys next time.
All right, so before we get into the games, I do want to point out a few key points, things to be looking out for in this matchup in particular. So the first and most important are going to be the combat interactions between Kick Butts or Unbeatable Squirrel Girl and Sherlock's defenses being Deduce Strategy, Feint, or Elementary. So the main ones are here up top, Deduce, Strategy, or Feint. So let's say Squirrel Girl moves in, you get all 8 squirrels adjacent to Sherlock, and Squirrel Girl makes an attack. Well, it could be 2 very threatening attacks. So first, Kick Butts. That is going to be a 9 value attack. If you throw Deduce Strategy into Kick Butts, the Deduce will reduce it, well, it doesn't even actually change, but it would put it to a 1 because of the boost value, and then because defender resolves first, then the attacker. Kick Butts will bump up +1 up to a 9 over the top of Deduce and hit for 6 damage. That is brutal for Sherlock. But if it is a feint, then of course into Kick Butts you're not taking any damage at all. Now let's say the flip side, right? Now let's say it's Unbeatable Squirrel Girl. If it's Deduce, well, you're going to change it down to a 1, and then Unbeatable is going to ignore the Deduce value, so it will still hit for 1 single damage, but that's not that great, right? So you want to play Deduce into Unbeatable, not into Kick Butts. On the flip side, if it's Feint on defense, you want to feint the Kick Butts, but you don't necessarily want to feint the Unbeatable because then it's a 4 over your 2, and you're still taking 2 damage, which is pretty good for Squirrel Girl. So I guess overall, it's great to throw this on offense because you're almost guaranteed to do at least 1 damage. Now, Elementary is kind of a weird in-between because it could cancel both Kick Butts and Unbeatable, but it's also the riskiest option of the 3, I guess, because if you call a 1 and you're wrong and it's Unbeatable, your punish is taking 4 damage because Unbeatable will ignore the 3 value block of Elementary. If you call a 4 thinking it's Unbeatable and it's really a Kick Butts, well, you're going to take 6. So the safer option, of course, is to call the 1 with the Elementary to stop the Kick Butts. And if it's the Unbeatable, well, you take a 4 damage punish, which is better than a 6 damage punish. But still, that is really bad. So Elementary is actually not the best defense in the matchup because of these 2 options. Of course, if Squirrel Girl uses one of these up completely, then Elementary becomes insane because it will stop the remaining threat always. Whereas these 2, you got to have the right one for the right attack, right? Like, even if all of my Unbeatables are used up, you might only have Deduce in hand. You might not have the Elementary, in which case the Kick Butts is going to hit for 6 over your Deduce, but you still got to defend because you can't take a 9 undefended. So if Deduce is your only option, you might have to throw it, and that's huge. So Elementary is really good if one of these are fully used up, but otherwise it is kind of inferior, I would say, to these options up top. So the combat mind games there are massive, and if Squirrel Girl can get a big win in even just a single combat throughout the game, I think she's going to be in a great spot overall. But Sherlock does have the defensive tools. He's just going to have to make the right calls at the right time and hope that it works out. Okay, the next thing I want to point out is the insane effectiveness of Deduce strategy on offense in this matchup. Because, once again, Squirrel Girl has no boost values above a 2. So Deduce, being an attacking card, changing their boost value, or changing their card to the boost value, it's always going to deal minimum 1 damage, if not maybe 2 damage, based on what Squirrel Girl defends with. And that's huge. The only way for Squirrel Girl to get away from that Deduce on offense is by using Unbeatable on defense, because then you can ignore the value of your opponent's card, right? So that essentially makes Deduce a 0. But if this isn't online because of having 4 squirrels adjacent to Sherlock when he's attacking, then you can guarantee a minimum of 1 damage, because even the feint is a 2 value into a 3 value. And funny enough, Sherlock's ability says that Holmes cards can't even be canceled. So Deduce will actually deal 2 over the feint because it'll bump the feint down to the 1 boost value. So there's a lot of cards where Deduce will deal 2 damage. and only a few where it's going to deal 1 damage. Even Call of the Mild, because Defender resolves first, if you were to bump this up to a 4 on defense, it's going to go up to a 4, and then Deduce attacking is going to go next and bring this back down to a 2. So there's almost no way for Squirrel Girl to stop herself from taking damage when Sherlock attacks with Deduce. And because of the mind games, the coin flip interactions when you try to defend with Deduce, because the punish is so potentially high, being a 9 value kick butts over the top of Deduce, Sherlock might actually want to save these for offense instead, because again, with Squirrel Girl having only 13 health, if she doesn't find her healing at the right time, maybe Sherlock can even put up some offensive pressure and just kill Squirrel Girl from damage rather than trying to run away and always land the optimal defenses into her potentially devastating attacks. So Deduce on offense is definitely something we're going to have to look out for considering these boost values. So next up, I want to point out how good the Squirrel attacks actually are into Sherlock, because Bite of Steel is a 2 that bumps up to a 5, so that beats over Deduce, and all of Sherlock's defenses are 3 value or lower. And then same thing with Call of the Mild. I mean, similar at least. It bumps to a 4, not quite a 5, but still effective nonetheless. And with Sherlock having very little draw power, you might actually want to draw the cards so that you can keep up the pressure and keep attacking him and landing damage. But anyways, either of these 2 attacks are guaranteed to land, in Bite of Steel's case, 2 damage, and in Call of the Mild, 1 damage, over all of Sherlock's defenses except the 2 that we have over here. So Elementary is really good against Squirrel attacks because you always call a 2 no matter what, because those are the only options, and you will full negate that card. So amazing here. Whereas if you use it against Squirrel Girl, you might get mega punished if you call it wrong. So Elementary is best used against the Squirrels to confirm that you full negate their attack. So that's great. And Feint does the same thing, full negating, because they're both printed 2s. So Feint is a little bit worse to use against Squirrels because you'd rather use it against Squirrel Girl, I think, because again it covers both of the options that she might be throwing decently well. It'll full negate kick butts, which is amazing, and you take 2 against Unbeatable, but that's better than taking 4. So you might want to save it for Squirrel Girl, but there might be situations where Sherlock doesn't have any better options. It's either he takes 2 damage or he throws one of these defenses, right? So it's kind of a trade-off. And so with the Squirrels being able to threaten this mind game up to 6 times throughout a game, that makes them really threatening actually against Sherlock. So he has to respect the Squirrels. And he can't really afford to be killing Squirrels because he has no AoE damage area of effect, meaning like nothing like a Wily fighting that damages everybody adjacent to him, right? So he'd have to attack and use valuable cards just to kill off like singular Squirrels, and that is just so not worth it. So because of that, the Squirrels are going to stick around, and there's going to be a lot of them, and so these cards are always going to be a threat, and Sherlock has to respect them. So he better be throwing these cards, or he should expect to take minimum 1, maybe even 2 damage, depending on which of these attacks it ends up being. Okay, the last interaction I want to point out are the combat interactions when Sherlock and or Watson attack the Squirrels. So the Squirrels, as we know, only have a single defensive option, and that is Call of the Mild. And this card does not have cancellation ability, right? And it's only a 2 value unless you have a group of Squirrels in the same zone, then it can become a 4 value. But either way, if Sherlock, or rather Watson, attacks a Squirrel with fixed point in a changing age, he will guarantee that him and Holmes both get the healing effect off of this after combat. So that's really important for Sherlock to consider. If he's getting in danger of lethal thresholds and really needs the healing, he can have Watson attack a Squirrel, and as long as Watson and Holmes are adjacent, he will guarantee to get the healing on both of them. So that is huge. That's disregarding a defense whether or not they play it, right? Another interesting thing is study methods attacking a Squirrel. If the Squirrel decides to take it undefended or doesn't have 4 Squirrels in that same zone, study methods will guarantee to win the combat, and then you get to look at your opponent's hand. And so even if you don't have your eliminate the impossible scheme, you might be able to just attack with the study methods first action, look at the hand, and then play a confirmed suspicion on your second action so that you can rip out whatever you need to. or even play an Eliminate the Impossible on second action if you don't have a Confirm to pair it with. And that way, study methods will let you know whether or not Squirrel Girl has a scheme in hand, which Confirmed Suspicion cannot hit, so that you know when to play your Eliminate the Impossible and rip Squirrel Girl's scheme out of her hand with that. So the offensive study methods can be very good, and the only way the Squirrels can stop it is if they have 4 in the same zone and they defend with Call of the Mild. But in that case, you're going to be forced to draw 2 cards, which may or may not be good for Squirrel Girl, right? So that's really interesting. And the last one, similarly, Education Never Ends, says after combat, if you won, your opponent draws a card. If you lost, you draw 2 cards. So if you attack a squirrel with this card, you guarantee that you force Squirrel Girl to draw a minimum of 1 card, because their option is taking it undefended, in which case you kill the squirrel, you won the combat, and your opponent draws the 1 card. Their other option is to defend and win the combat instead, so they defend with Call of the Mild, which becomes a 4, which means Education is going to draw Sherlock 2 cards, but Call of the Mild also wins, so that forces Squirrel Girl to draw 2. So in that case, if they defend with the 4-value Call of the Mild, both players draw 2. Otherwise, if they take it undefended, only Squirrel Girl will draw 1. And so when you're considering fatigue and passes and deck counts and all this stuff, like, drawing is a big thing, and with this card being able to force at least 1 draw off of Squirrel Girl, that is definitely a big thing that could swing a game. So definitely something to look out for. So all of these have really unique and interesting interactions when you attack into squirrels. So even though you might not want to be attacking into squirrels often, because then you're just wasting card value, you might find a few situations where you can pull off some tricky things using these cards. All right, so overall, I would probably guess that it's a little bit Sherlock favored because, come on, let's be real, it's Sherlock. He is S tier for a reason, but I do see the merit for Squirrel Girl here. The coin flippy combat interactions are going to dictate a large part of this game, and if they happen to go in Squirrel Girl's favor, I can definitely see her getting enough damage to get the win. But Sherlock is really good at being very defensive and forcing initiative on the opponent and getting Watson in the way to soak up an extra 8 damage. And so if he can do that really effectively, which I think he can against Squirrel Girl, that's just a lot of health to get through, right? You have the 16 from Sherlock, plus the 8 from Watson, plus potentially more from healing. So there's a lot of health to chew through, literally, for the squirrels. But I think they might be able to do it because all those attacks that buff up the values just are really good into Deduce, which is one of Sherlock's traditionally best defense cards. So when you can punish Deduce, I think you have a pretty decent shot into Sherlock overall. And Squirrel Girl's boost values being so low actually helps her out a little bit when it comes to Confirmed Suspicion and the traditional auto damage that Sherlock likes to deal with his schemes. Because Confirm deals damage equal to the boost value of the card discarded, Squirrel Girl can often just take a single damage by discarding a 1 boost value card. And then also, not only can she avoid damage from Confirm, but she's got a good amount of healing, so 17 effective health is pretty good. And Sherlock isn't very aggressive. He doesn't usually attack a lot, and so it's going to be hard for Sherlock to kill Squirrel Girl actively, I think. He's going to either have to play a long game and just outvalue Squirrel Girl, which is what Sherlock is great at, or otherwise maybe there's an aggressive route that you can take and just deal damage, like I mentioned, by attacking with Deduce strategy for a minimum of 1 to 2 damage. You also have 4 5s in the deck, 2 for Sherlock, 2 for Watson. You can deal a minimum of 1 damage there, maybe even 2. So maybe Sherlock has to play aggressive rather than trying to back off and just getting hit turn after turn. Maybe it's better for him to flip the aggression around onto Squirrel Girl and land damage there. But I think it's very dynamic. There's a lot that goes into it, and it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out. So with all that said, let's get on over to the games and see what happens between Squirrel Girl and Sherlock.
Aggressive cards. So you actually killed Squirrel Girl just from aggressing, and then the next 2 I won pretty handedly.
Okay.
So yeah. So
Bit of a mix.
There was something there, and we were switching up how we were playing each time and such, and so yeah, it was fun.
Yeah, so I mean, you've already played it a handful of times, so going into this, what are your thoughts on the matchup? Who do you think's favored?
Yeah, so it's really volatile to me. If it's from what it seems, if I can get Nutwork of Spies to discard at least one like critical card, and that being any type of cancel and any type of discard, any of those combinations of stuff, at least one of those, if not more, then I think she's in a really good spot. So if she's able to do that, I think it's pretty Squirrel Girl favored.
Interesting.
But it's pretty hard to do that. And if you get it early, it's really bad because you need your 4 squirrels out. You don't really ever want to play it for just the 1 discard, I think.
Right.
So you gotta go for that. Now, what's nice is Confirmed Suspicion is only ever 1 or 2 damage.
Right.
It's really not going to necessarily be the way to kill, since she has like 17 health, and he's got 6 from counter punches, and then 1 to 2 from each of the confirms, and then the 5s, right? So you can try and math it out, but it's close to actually get to her full health on versus other fighters. It's like you just need this, and you got it. So
sure. She does have healing though. So
yeah, exactly.
Right, that goes up to what, an effective 17.
Mm-hmm.
That's quite a bit. So
yeah.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of counterplay, so I'm excited to try it out. Now, I think the biggest question mark in any Squirrel Girl matchup is probably the map. If, would you say so? Like, I haven't done a lot of testing with her at all, but yeah, she, with not being able to boost for more than a 2 boost, meaning her max move value is a 4, that's worse than Arthur, and Arthur is like the slowest chunk in the game, so to be worse than that is pretty abysmal. So I think she definitely needs a smaller map, or I imagine Sherlock could just run away for days and just, fatigue her or outvalue.
I haven't tried her on large maps, but I don't really see how she wins.
Yeah.
Even though she's got really great attacks with the squirrels, one of them, if your opponent is smart, can just make it so you draw 2 and then you fatigue out and can be sniping squirrels for passes. So unless I'm missing something, I really don't see that ever really happening. So I think for her to be competitive, and this goes for Cloak and Dagger as well, Miss Marvel in a similar kind of way, but she can do really well on maps in terms of like how far she can move. It's more her effects.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like both her and Cloak and Dagger really need to have some say over what map or position they're on in order to do well.
Yeah, I really do think that Teen Spirit is the most map dependent set of all of them.
Easily, yeah.
Which is crazy, right? How much it impacts all of them, all in the same box.
I guess I might argue Jurassic Park 2 is up there. I still think it's Teen Spirit, but I think that's a close second.
Yeah, because obviously T-Rex doesn't like huge maps in general because her terrible move value, and the ripples, spots are super important. And Sattler, same thing, doesn't have any passes and can't move past a 5, so she doesn't like huge maps either because she is way too linear and one-dimensional to handle that. She has no fatigue game or whatever, so yeah, I would agree there. Very close second, but to have all 3 of these fighters so incredibly map dependent is just crazy.
Mm-hmm.
But it's really cool though to see more implications of maps, and how important they are, because we all know how much of an impact they make in pretty much any matchup, but it's just being exacerbated, I feel like, with the newer fighters.
Mm-hmm.
So speaking of maps, let's take a look here. What do you think you want to play on? I would imagine not something really big because we don't want a non-game, so something reasonably sized.
Yeah. So what's funny is she's really good on item maps because she can snipe them with squirrels, and they all have an ultimate bullseye spot. But if Sherlock is able to get, say, the healing or the recursion on something really good, then it's pretty rough for her. So it's kind of the same thing, even though he can't really camp them, right? So he's just got to take it when he gets it.
Right.
Which is fascinating. So that's good. But yeah, I think any of the Smaller maps are pretty good. Solomon's doesn't really count in my opinion because with like Watson, it can be hard for Squirrel Girl herself to get in and attack.
Yep.
And that's pretty rough. Hanging Gardens is pretty good for Squirrel Girl. It's also notoriously bad for Sherlock. But that might be a good one to test on.
Yeah, that might be a little bit too much Squirrel Girl favor, though, right?
Maybe.
What do you think
Yeah.
about, like, Hierot?
That's what I was wondering. Hierot's pretty good for Squirrel Girl, and, you know, he can still body block with Watson if he needs to.
Yeah, you down for that one?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, cool. I will keep this. All right, you ready?
Let's do it.
Here we go. Good luck, have fun.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll start with a maneuver. And then let's go ahead and maneuver again. Maybe I come on both of the outsides so that I have the blue covered. Yeah, I'll end there. Your turn.
Summon not Tippy Toe, because she's going to die soon, I think. I'll maneuver. We'll attack you with this.
Okay, I have to guess that you want to get squirrels online as soon as possible, so it's probably the Get 'em Tippy Toe, which is just a 3. But it could also be like a Squirmish, so let's throw out the counterpunch. Oh, it's Fuzzball.
Wanted the feint, dude.
Wanted the feint. You don't get it. Do you want to move your Squirrel? I like the sound effect. It's very fitting for little squirrel rodent fiends.
That's right.
All right, let's go ahead and do an eliminate. See what you're working with.
Dang it.
Kick butts.
As you can see, I mulliganed into garbage.
Oh yeah. Kick butts won't do anything.
Fuzzball, dude.
Rough. Squirmish will summon squirrels, which I don't like. This thing only works if there's 4 or more squirrels adjacent to me.
I was wanting to Squirmish that previous turn, but there was a world in which you fainted, I think. You only take 2, and then I've only got 1 defense, and that I don't want to use yet against your 5.
True.
So that's why I chose not to do it.
Let's rip the Squirmish out.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have Unbeatable. So, what do we hit with? I wish I had my 5. It'd be an easy choice. We will go ahead and attack you with this card.
I think I gotta throw it.
I think so too. So I'll hit you for 2. And you're up.
Summon a squirrel. So, am I winning the value game, or do I need to... I feel like forcing you to have to defend here is pretty good. And you know that I'd be attacking with a Fuzzball special. But what do you throw there? You probably just take it. So am I okay taking the 3? Like getting the 3 damage in there? That's pretty good. Otherwise, worst case scenario, you mulliganed into the... you started with
triple counterpunch. Yeah.
It's just fine. Worst case scenario, then I maneuver. I don't draw into a defense. I could close the door and close the door. You would be at, well, you probably just would run in and boost maybe and attack with a, no. You would have attacked with Watson with the 5 last turn. Unless you forgot he was in my zone.
Better watch out, buddy. Aggro Sherlock is coming for you.
Well, I do have to be careful. There is a world in which I lose my health pool before I just start doing stuff. But I think I need to back off until I can get more squirrels out. We'll leave that squirrel there. I'll close this off. I'll go here. I'll maneuver again, and it'll be your turn.
Okay. I will maneuver.
Feels bad when you really don't have get 'em tippy toe early.
Yeah, I imagine. We'll open the door. That's 1, 2. Open the door for 1 and go 2. Let's have Sherlock attack with
What is this, dude?
this. It's aggro Sherlock, dude. I told you he's coming for you.
Top deck the 5, of course.
Yeah, of course. So, Squirrelagility, you get to move 1,000,000, huh?
I'll just go there.
2, 3. Okay, I get to move 3. Let's go there, and you're up.
Maneuver again. Call it good there, and it'll be your turn.
Maneuver. 3 squirrels is still okay for me. Do I go in for another attack? But then on your counter attack, you get up to 4. That's not great. All right, let's go 1, 2, 1, 2. I'll maneuver again. And your turn.
Summon a squirrel. I'll maneuver. And I will have that squirrel attack Sherlock.
So bite triggers if there's 4 more squirrels in the attacker's zone or the defender's zone?
Oh, wait a second. You're right. Let me think. Let me do this math correctly.
Well, if you move Squirrel Girl to open the door, then Squirrel can go onto Sherlock if that...
Aha. Perfect. I appreciate it.
Yep.
Not that I mean...
You only have 2 options. So bite
Exactly,
is when
right?
the
It
4
doesn't matter.
squirrels are in the opposing fighter's zone, and the wild or mild is
in
what?
its zone, the fighter zone.
In the squirrel's zone, or Squirrel Girl, yeah.
Who's
Okay.
ever playing it, yeah.
Either of which I lose for this, so I can draw 2.
Yep.
Okay, so 5 over 3, I take 2. I lost, so I draw 2. And it's my turn?
Yep.
Let's have Sherlock attack the squirrel that's on his space. Dang it, dude. I didn't think you'd play anything. I wanted that free hand peek.
Yeah, I know you did.
Well, at least I forced you to draw. I guess maybe that's good. Do a maneuver. Close the door. Let's go there. Your turn.
Summon an idiot.
Don't you call that squirrel an idiot.
Maneuver.
It's a fine, upstanding citizen
Open the door.
of the animal kingdom.
Open the door with Squirrel Girl.
Sure.
Bounce back here. And let's have a peek.
Is it just 1?
It's 2 because they're adjacent to Watson.
Look at an opponent's hand and choose a card from the discard. 1 of their fighters adjacent to 4 or more squirrels. Oh, crap. Oh, my God, dude. You just hit gold. I thought about doing it last turn. I was going to combo you, but then I was like, I can just attack with the study methods, get the free peek, confirm you, and then I still have combo for later. Once
I was
you dig further into your deck.
doing that last turn, dude.
Oh
I saw you reach
gosh.
for a card turn 1, and I was like, don't have it.
Dude, you played that so well. Oh my gosh, this is so good for you.
I wonder if I don't rip out Elementary here. Normally I would, though. Because getting rid of defenses is very good for me. But that confirm, since you got some good damage off on me early, that confirm is scaring me a little bit. But I think I need to force you to probably run next turn.
Gonna get the elementary?
Oh
man, that's brutal.
Those were 2 of the good cards that I was talking about earlier.
That's for sure.
I was hoping a feint instead of an elementary because I generally
Feint's
feel
better.
like feint's better.
Yeah, it is. There's no guesswork. It's just cancel.
Exactly. Right? Like against like Bigfoot, then elementary's better.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Where you can do that.
But against
I don't
Sattler,
have
against
any-
Squirrel Girl, against Houdini, feint's where it's at.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
But I think that's the right call for me.
Do I have to clear squirrels is the question. I don't think I can even afford to do that in this matchup.
I don't think you have the cards to do so.
I could Master of Disguise and then maneuver and put myself very far away from you. So I kind of negate one of your turns with Squirrel Girl, but I feel like your hand is so built up, you probably have stuff for squirrels to use, like passes or an attack. So I don't think that's Great. So I'm going to maneuver. All right, let's have Sherlock attack Squirrel Girl.
A skirmish.
I think I just got to make you boost. So I'll go up there and it's your turn. You take your 1.
Ooh.
Cheater.
Thank you. Appreciate it. And then I will have Squirrel Girl attack you.
So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It'd be a 7.
Mm-hmm. No! I thought you drew a defense, otherwise you wouldn't attack me.
Maybe I did.
Yeah, but you didn't want to
Hey,
play.
dang, my study methods got canceled, dude, even though I won the combat. It actually comes into play.
Dang, that sucks.
You
I should have
canceled
just
me.
gone for it, maybe.
Yeah, we'll see.
I never know.
Never know. I will take a maneuver this turn. Close door 1, 2. We'll maneuver again. Your turn.
First action, I summon a squirrel. I'll maneuver. And let's eat nuts.
Aw.
Which everybody knows heals them too.
Dang. Let's do a maneuver. I'm going to confirm a 2. Perfect. Got the double damage. Let's go.
Dang, now I really regret ditching my feint last time.
And your turn. I'm stupid and I messed up is and. I was like, oh, Squirrel Girl can't reach me because she's got to move 5 because of the door. And I'm like, well, yeah, squirrels can open the door. I'm an idiot. I was thinking about calling the 1, but I'm like, well, this is a turn where I can just have, you know, Watson body block and Squirrel Girl can't reach me, so I don't have to worry about the kick butts. So I'll call a 2 instead because I only have to worry about squirrels. But yeah, I'm dumb. And so I get punished with a 9 value attack. That is fantastic. Into Sherlock, I assume, Squirrel Girl. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And it is my turn.
I was thinking about if there's a world where I go for Watson there and just try and one-shot him.
Yeah.
Don't have to worry about his 5s.
That would have been kind of nice for you, honestly. Maneuver.
It's going pretty awfully for me.
1, 2, 1, 2. Close door.
I haven't been able to, like, control tempo at all. Because it was like first 4 turns, don't do anything.
It's crazy that the squirrels can, like, get through me and open the doors, like, no matter what. Maybe I want Watson here, Sherlock here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I'm safe there. You're up.
Let's maneuver. And we'll hit you for 2.
Yeah. Ouch. Let's have Watson attack this squirrel.
Mm-hmm. Take it.
So heal 1. And then I will maneuver. Yep, that's the spot. Your turn.
Maneuver. Dang. Needed to top deck something. Oh, the squirrel should be here. I'll maneuver again. It'll be your turn.
I will do a Master of Disguise.
Mm-hmm.
And then I will do a maneuver. Trying to get furthest away from squirrels. I guess I'll go there. Your turn.
Maneuver.
Don't you be coming after my boy. Squirrel Girl
Mm-hmm.
into Watson.
Mm-hmm.
We feint those. Dang. Feels bad. Okay. Let's see. let's administer aid.
Mm-hmm.
So I will heal 1 and draw 1. Then confirm a 2. Wow, really, dude? Holy cow.
Well, to be fair, I'm feeling the same way. Really, dude? Where are my 2s?
Oh my gosh. Like, you had faint, you had bite, you have calls. Oh, I really just wanted the damage. That sucks. Kick butts, unbeatable. Okay. Your turn, I guess. That was awful. We need to pay attention to new placement rules with Administer Aid.
Bring up a great point.
Yeah.
Could have surrounded.
That's right. For anybody watching who's unfamiliar with that, when any effect says to place a fighter somewhere, you have to place in an empty space. So there cannot be a squirrel in that space because that counts as another fighter.
And I will have Squirrel Girl attack Watson.
It could be a 5. So I will just take this. I'll take 3. 1, 2, 3. All right, my turn.
Yes.
Okay. Maneuver. And then we will administer aid yet again. Put him over here, heal 1, draw 1, and it's your turn.
I'll maneuver. And we'll have this squirrel attack you.
We'll call it 2. Okay, was that the last bite? Yeah, it was. Yep. Okay. Now what do? I will maneuver. Let's just confirm a 1. Get your kick butts. All right, your turn. Oh, that was dumb. I should have called a 4 and got rid of your unbeatable.
Maybe. You only have 2 feints left, and so if I magically get to hit 1 more full value kick butts, that's 6. So
it's more so that, like, if I hit it, I would have got you down to 2, and then the gun kills you over everything.
I see, yes. I'll have Squirrel Girl attack Watson.
Well, then I guess we faint.
Alright, do you have it?
Do I have it?
Yeah, do you have a revolver?
No, I don't.
Nice.
I've been wanting one of those. Haven't seen one the whole game.
Yeah, I feel like I need to kill him to have a chance, so that's why I did it.
But I think it's okay. I'll just have Sherlock attack Squirrel Girl. I will make yours a 2. And then we'll master.
Ah, I had it. Yeah, I hadn't thought about the master.
GG.
I had to go for something there, I think.
Yeah, I was a little bit concerned that you were just going to run away and, like, fatigue me out if you killed Watson. If you killed Watson.
I could have done that if I had killed Watson, but I didn't think I had. When I was considering attacking Watson, did you have the feint?
Yeah.
Okay.
I did.
Yeah. With the squirrels?
The squirrels, yeah. I had the feint. I also had this one. So.
Well, I would have been fine with that one, actually.
Well, yeah. I mean, because then I draw 2, but I would have found my revolvers, and I knew you still had 2 more healing, I believe.
Would have taken 2, and then I could have sniped Watson with this.
Yeah, I would have gotten 1 revolver off then, because if I drew the 2, I would have used it the following turn.
Yeah.
And then you kill Watson. So it's like my revolver negated your healing, essentially.
I would have only taken 1, because I would have defended.
Well, if you had unbeatable,
4.
yeah, you did. So, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I could have just feinted it to be safe, and maybe I would have. I don't know, but I felt like I needed the revolvers. But as soon as you came in, I was like, oh, well, now I get to do an easy attack with Deduce, and he's in lethal range. versus if we wait a little bit longer and then you heal first, and then if I attack with Deduce, it's not lethal like with a Master of Disguise, so you can come in and smack me, I can't kill you on the counter attack, and then you can smack me again, and then maybe I die because you can hit like, you know, maybe a 9 and maybe I don't know, a 5 or a 4 like unbeatable that goes through or something. I don't know.
The thing is, if I'm out of kick butts, unbeatable is just a 1 into your Deduce.
Wait, what?
You play Deduce, I attack with unbeatable, and you set the value to 1.
Unbeatable's immediate though. So if you have the squirrels, which you will, then you cancel. Oh, it can't be canceled because it's a Holmes card. And it ignores, but it is a 1. Interesting. Wow. Yeah, that's crazy.
So I always gotta threaten like 8 or 9 squirrels when I'm attacking. So that if I do throw that out there, I can get 2 over the feint.
That's a good point, because then I don't want to throw a feint into. I mean, I don't want to throw a Deduce into the kick butts. So, yeah, that's huge, dude.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe when I did have the ability to just hit Watson with like a 9 value kick butts or whatever, maybe I should have taken it, because I was pretty sure you didn't have a feint. And you didn't. I mean, you played the 3.
I will say I was really worried during the early-ish game, early mid game, when I kind of got low in hand count, and I just kept drawing schemes after schemes, dude. We were like up around this area or something.
I was assuming. I was drawing garbage too, dude.
If you had like your big bombs there, like a big kick butts or something, or unbeatable even that you used on offense, like I would have just got wrecked.
Yeah.
So I was very scared
for those. So I feel you always mulligan for this. And I didn't see it. So when I went in for the attack, I was trying to bait this out with the 3. So I could have ideally double maneuvered, but I knew if I double maneuvered, you would play the scheme. And I didn't want to draw into something that I really wanted to lose. And I had already drawn into an unbeatable off that. And I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. So I knew that was going to get ripped out. So if you played it, so I felt like I had to pressure you so that you wouldn't play it. And you did, but I think that was still the right call on my part.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, well played.
That was interesting.
Yeah.
All right, let's switch it over. And
there was definitely points in there where I was actually feeling pretty okay, even though the early game was really rough, because anybody who can like attack with a 9 and do 6 damage is terrifying.
Crazy, dude. Yeah. Like I said, I was definitely scared at points in that game. So we'll see how it goes when we switch it around and Squirrel Girl gets to go first.
Yeah, it's a big difference, I think.
I will definitely mulligan. This looks absolutely horrible. Everything is reliant on squirrels or trash.
Yep. What you want, an early Squirmish is awesome, but the biggest one is so that by turn 2, right, you summon a squirrel, maneuver boost, attack with, get him tippy toe, and then on the next turn you have 4 squirrels already.
Right.
It's huge.
Okay.
So that's what I mulligan for in like every Squirrel Girl matchup. Because if they fainted also, that's fine, because then one of their generally 3 feints is gone, which is huge.
I'll start by summoning Tippy Toe, the best of them all.
Ooh, maybe that was what I did.
That was your mistake. You didn't summon Tippy Toe at the start. I'm going all in because I dare you. Come attack my squirrel. Go ahead, buddy.
There are very few fighters that I think can afford to waste stuff on squirrels.
Yeah,
but it's anybody who it's not wasting. So like anybody like who has like area of effect is really good. Red is really good. Anybody who doesn't lose value with attacking with like hands.
Right. Now, I'm wondering if I have Squirrel Girl here and I have a squirrel on either end, can I just get to anywhere? I think I can in 4.
That's correct.
Even with a body blocker,
mm-hmm.
I believe, which is just crazy.
Yep. That's why I was chilling there.
Yeah, that's awesome. 1, 2, I can close this door and this door along the way.
Ooh.
I box myself in.
Sounds amazing.
I'll maneuver again. I mean, I'm going to have to, like, boost anyways, right? So I might as well just put myself the safest I can be. It doesn't really matter, but... this way, at least Sherlock can't come attack me turn 1. So I'll end there.
And I was going to do exactly that.
Dude, I know. Aggro Sherlock is where it's at. It's a new meta.
Press X2 down. I'll maneuver again. And it'll be your turn.
Okay. I will summon right here. I can summon anywhere, right? Even with another squirrel? Like that was changed as long as it's an adjacent space? Okay, cool. Cool. Sure, we'll summon it there. I'll take a maneuver. I guess boost with Fuzzball while I can. Because I can have Tippy Toe open the door for 1, 2, 3. Actually, let's have this one open up this door over here for 1, and then let's go 2, and let's go 3. Squirrel Girl, attack with... I'll attack with this. Okay, so I take 2, I summon the 2 squirrels, any space. Well, I don't want you to be able to attack them, so I'll go here. Your turn.
It's all about your precious squirrels.
Yes, sir.
I'll attack Squirrel.
With who?
Sherlock.
We'll do a skirmish. Ouch. So I take 2. I summon a squirrel in my space and then go anywhere in the zone. Pin myself.
If there was a squirrel there, you couldn't have done it.
I know, that would have been terrible.
I'll maneuver.
That was such a bad play. I don't play Squirrel Girl ever. Everyone can roast me in the comments being like, this guy sucks. And I'll agree. Alright, my turn?
Yeah.
Okay.
Summon a squirrel.
Summon a squirrel, yes. I will summon a squirrel. Yeah. Squirrel Girl is going to come up here. And Squirrel Girl... No, let's have this squirrel... maybe my positioning's all off. I don't know what I want to attack with, and I don't want to redo all my squirrel placements, so we'll have the squirrel attack Sherlock, this one right here.
We'll call it 2.
Yep, you got it. Good job. Alright, your turn.
Let's go ahead and maneuver. And let's maneuver again. And I'll be good with it.
Alright, I'll summon. I will maneuver. Let's go ahead and eat nuts. So
you
heal
would.
To summon a squirrel here, and it's your turn. Dang.
Let's do a little swap. And then let's go ahead and maneuver. Go here. Go here. Alright. You're up.
Alright. I'll maneuver. Oh, I gotta summon a squirrel. Sorry. I guess this one comes over here. So I maneuvered. 1, 2, 3, 4. I gotta go 4, so I will boost with Squirgility. We'll go. This one can open the door for 1, 2, 3, 4. This one can go 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2. 1, 2, 3, 4.
I should have gone there then.
And let's have Squirrel Girl attack.
We will think.
Yeah, smart. I think you have to when you're being threatened by this. Alright, you're up.
We'll attack you.
Who?
with Sherlock. Oh, well, I can only attack you with Sherlock.
Yeah, Sherlock into Squirrel Girl. Okay. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3.
Nice.
Gotta retake that center.
I wonder if there's a world in which I follow. I'll attack.
He is following. Alright, no free peek for you. Summon 2 squirrels in any space. Let's bring the farthest ones up here.
Well played.
Okay, my turn. I will maneuver.
Summon a squirrel.
Oh, that's right. Come here, Tippy Toe. Let's maneuver again. You can go.
Maneuver. Maneuver again. Go there and it'll be your turn.
Okay. Summon this squirrel over here. I'll maneuver. Alright. I will have this squirrel attack Sherlock. Nice. 2 damage for a squirrel. I'll take that trade any day.
Both of them die.
Oh, for 2 squirrels. Now that's a different story.
I'll have Watson attack.
No! My army is falling. I'll take it. Oh my gosh, you even get healing out of it. That sucks. That's just a prime showcase of me being bad, not knowing what I'm doing. I could have put a squirrel here. I could have had one in each different space, I think. Actually, I couldn't reach there without boosting, but I could at least spread them out like one more.
Alright, you're up.
Okay, I'll summon a squirrel here. I will maneuver. Let's eat nuts again. So recover 2, summon here. Your turn.
Let's do a swappy swap.
Dang it, dude.
Take 1. Let's maneuver. You're up.
Summon. Maneuver. Maneuver again. 1, 2. Your turn. Come on, you know you want to combo this turn. Let's go.
I'll maneuver. And I think my math is correct if I do this. You're up.
Oh, you lied to me. You said that I could get everywhere.
I did.
In 4. You scumbag.
I thought it could. I did last time.
Dang it, dude. What the heck? Alright, well, we'll summon.
But you can't go to either side because I think the same thing can happen.
Yeah. Oh well. You're a scumbag. You've just exposed yourself to everybody watching.
Oh wait, I could be wrong. I think either of these sides might work. But I just said that for the middle and I was wrong. So
that's okay. That's okay. So I maneuvered.
Just to be clear, you said it like you discovered it first, and I just agreed with you.
Yeah, I know. I'm just dumb. I told you. I'm terrible at Squirrel Girl. So I want to move here, huh? And then I will horde on Sherlock. And your turn. Yeah, so it's just moving that 1 extra space to the edges is what does it. Because the edges go 1, 2 spaces to here, regardless of which one you're at.
Let's pop the 2 squirrels.
Who?
Sherlock.
Oh, you think they're just dead, huh? Mr. Throwing your 5 out there. No, you just know I can't defend for anything more than a 2. I'll take it. Dang it. I shouldn't have done that, because now I give you a free peek.
Alright, I'll maneuver.
Okay. I will summon a Squirrel.
Squirrel.
I will maneuver. Squirrel Girl, close the door.
Are you serious? You top deck.
Have this guy attack.
2. So is this call or is this bite? It was bite.
It was bite.
I'll have. Let's see. I'll have Sherlock attack you.
I think I'll just do a score agility. Take my 2, and I will go right there.
Alright.
Alright, my turn. I will summon a squirrel there. I'll maneuver. I'll maneuver again. Your turn.
I'll maneuver. Let's see what you're working with.
Not too much better than what you saw before.
Ugh, you're right. We'll ditch that.
No. Now I'm beatable. I will summon a squirrel. Let's get this one over here. I will maneuver.
No Call of the Mild attack, huh?
Not first action, no. Feints are bad, right? I could boost with the feint just fine. So, let's do that. And I will have Squirrel Girl attack.
You had it.
Gotcha. Only an 8.
An 8, so I take 5.
Yep. And you
I
draw
draw
2.
2.
I think that draw is actually really good for you here, though. Your turn.
Of course, you top decked it. I'm
Yep.
tired of people top decking what they need.
Oh, I hate it, dude. I feel your pain.
Let's go ahead and maneuver.
Watson attacking
Squirrel Girl.
me? Whoa, dude, that's some long range.
That's what she said. Sorry.
Okay. Good one.
I'm such an idiot.
That's some long range, buddy. Oh my gosh. Oh, that's so staying in the video. What do I do? It's gonna be the 5-er, obviously. I think I do this to save myself damage.
Yep.
So I take 1.
Yep. I wanted to either get that out of there or, you know.
Yeah, it was good. Alright, my turn?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, summon a squirrel over here.
Sounds
I
good.
will maneuver. Squirrel Girl attack Sherlock.
There's no way, but I gotta do it.
I got 2 at least. Alright, your turn.
Let's confirm a 3.
No more tippy toes.
I'll maneuver. Let's go there. Close the door here, and it'll be your turn.
Alright, I will summon a squirrel. I guess tippy toe's gonna move. I will maneuver. I will maneuver again. Alright, your turn.
Let's administer aid.
Mm-hmm. I should have played around that.
One squirrel, one space, and you got it.
Dude, that's gonna be the motto of Squirrel Girl players.
I'll attack. One squirrel, one space.
One squirrel, one space.
One squirrel, one space.
I had that game, but you know, one squirrel, one space.
One squirrel,
man.
one space.
Feels bad, man.
I'll attack Squirrel Girl with Watson.
Yeah, you would. Alright, I gotta throw it. 1, 2, 3.
Sounds good.
Alright, my turn.
Mm-hmm.
Let's summon a squirrel. I will maneuver. Let's not work.
Dang it.
That's gone for sure. That's gone for sure.
Mm-hmm. So I had this when you had your. I knew you. So I should have played it, gotten rid of the dash, and then just confirmed the dash, deleted 2 cards from your hand, and hit you for 2 health. But I didn't have. I didn't think about it. But just removing those options from you hitting them out of my hand would have been really good, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So okay,
All right. So you have a revolver and you have education.
Mm-hmm. And I have a 1, 2, 3, and there's 4 defenses left.
Okay, your turn.
Yeah. I think the squirrel attacks are going to be a trouble for me.
I hope so.
That sucks, dude. Let's go here. Let's maneuver again. All right.
My turn?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, tippy toe, come over here. I will maneuver.
Hopefully the viewers can at least see that this is a very close game.
It is definitely a close game.
Dang.
Huh.
It's a misplay on my part. I should have put Watson up here so I could. My plan was open the door, then Watson can get in no matter where I'm at, but that was a mistake.
What's the difference?
Well, if I could move Sherlock and open the door and then have Watson go here, he can.
Oh, yeah. True. Go ahead and move it. I don't care.
All right, I'll leave that there. Appreciate it.
Yep. Let's go ahead and maneuver again. You can go.
I think you're threatening a 4-value Call of the Mild, which is good on you. Let's maneuver. Let's maneuver again. You're up.
Summon Tippy Toe. Going to maneuver. Squirrel Girl will attack Watson.
Watson will take it.
That's a dead Watson. That was such a good play. I feel so good about that one because your only defense was education, which you'd have to draw 2. And you're about to rip this out of my hand probably with a confirm anyways. You're up.
Well played.
Holy crap, that was good. I don't know if it wins me the game, but man, that felt good.
I'll attack this pack of squirrels.
Not the squirrel pack. I'll take it. Yeah, that was good play.
I think I need to back off. Let's go here, and it'll be your turn.
I'll maneuver. Okay, well, squirrels are all about to die.
I could be wrong, but I think I have it.
I think you do too. But that Watson play was still cool.
Yeah, it was. I agree. I think what puts me in this game is the attacking the squirrels.
Yeah,
To make you draw 1.
Yeah, it's awful.
If you had 1 more card in hand, it'd be a much different situation. Because I wanted it to, so you only got 1 more squirrel action, right?
Right. If I could have this turn to like do an attack and the next turn to use my scheme, I'd be okay. But yeah, they just all blow up on maneuver, which is horrible. Nah, I'm not gonna attack. I'm just gonna hoard for 2 damage. Your turn.
Okay, hoarding for 2 damage. So I can't end in this zone, so I have to maneuver at least once. So I'll maneuver, and because I don't want to let you just attack me with squirrels as a pass, I believe I need to boost. I think I'll boost with a revolver. And I think I go... Whoops. I think I'm fine going like here. No, I can't go next to a squirrel. That's the biggest thing.
You can't go next to a squirrel, or next to Squirrel Girl adjacent, so you can't go there. Yeah,
you're right. So that's not safe. This is safe. Okay, so I'll do that. I'll call a 4.
Yeah, either way, I die on my next turn because I have to attack you. right? Because you deal the 1 damage. I can't double maneuver, so I'm forced to come in to attack. So I maneuver, all my squirrels blow up, unfortunately. And then I'm forced to make an attack, and it doesn't matter what because you're going to counterpunch. So I just attack with the fuzzball because it's funny.
Yeah.
GG.
GG's.
Ooh,
Oh, yeah.
close.
Yeah, it is. So I think you can see, at least my initial thoughts of it, is that it's very, very close and closer than it should be. And close against Sherlock is like pretty decent in my book.
Oh yeah, totally.
So,
Now,
but I
go ahead.
think it just, I mean, Sherlock is Sherlock, and Sherlock has Sherlock control, right? It's just surprising to me that he's actually got the damage to like kill her like just slowly, right, and able to do that. And I think it's because she just doesn't have any card draw, like
See,
really.
and that's exactly what I wanted to bring up during the game too, is like me playing as Squirrel Girl here, there were times where you had huge hand advantage on me and you're Sherlock, dude, and like that's terrifying because when Sherlock has hand advantage, he can actually do scary things, like at least in this matchup, because my boost values are so low, you can attack with deduce or you can attack with your 5s. So both really good attack options. You can attack with the gun, or you can just scheme me away to keep me low until you want to make an attack. And it's like, I can't really go in on you because if I'm at a low hand count, and if I have to maneuver and boost to get to you and then make an attack, I'm
Then you
down
don't
so
draw
many
any, you
cards.
net 1 loss, right?
Exactly, and you have so much, and then you just attack me with even stupid little things like education or study methods, right? And I can't just take 3 damage. Like, that's just way too much.
Never.
I
Yeah, I don't
can't
think
afford
you
it
can.
with a 13 health fighter like Squirrel Girl. So even though I got my healing, like, I'm still concerned about actually dying. So yeah, like I felt the pressure even of not having a lot of card draw, which helped me out in fatigue, but also it was just scary at points. And the fact that Sherlock can actually pack on the damage, like offensively, is concerning. And that's part of the reason why Sherlock beats Sinbad so hard, because of the offensive damage that you can't do anything about. And you're a melee fighter, so you have to attack into counter punches.
And this is the same thing in that matchup.
Yeah, exactly. It's terrifying. So yeah, it's
I think I brought that up in
really
my deck
interesting.
review of these, which I don't think Mike and I had talked about.
It's really good, dude. Really,
So,
really good.
yeah.
The only thing I can do is dash, right? And then
Dash
or
and Squirgility.
Squirgility. I mean, the same.
That's nice. But the fact that 1, she's a move 4 fighter, but then 2, like, she doesn't have 2 Val boosts on her cards that she wants 2 boosts on. Like,
What do you mean?
in my opinion. Like, Fuzzball Special, that should be a 2.
Oh,
or
totally.
even a 3.
Totally.
Right? Like, Feint, that should be a 2 or a 3.
This should be a 3 for sure.
Yeah, that should be a 3 for sure. I mean, I think we can go over what should be a 3 and all that
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
But like there are so, I mean, even this one, once you get all your squirrels out, unless you're up against like Yen, where the odds of you getting wiped out are pretty high, like you only need like 1 or 2 of them in the game.
Right.
Like,
so why not make it a high boost value so that you can have a dual purpose for the card, right?
exactly.
Yeah.
All of her cards feel very one purposey, and this one has no purpose.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. If only it was a squirrel.
Unless you watch my puzzle videos.
If only it was a squirrel attack, man. Then it'd be a feint punish. It'd feel so
Dude,
good.
I'm not joking. If that was a versatile or that was a squirrel attack or an any, it would be game changing.
Dude, it really would. It's insane how much of a difference a simple change like that would make to the deck.
Yep. I think maybe both changes. A versatile any.
A versatile any. Oh, dude, it'd be massive. Absolutely huge.
But yeah, versatile. Making it versatile is would be so huge because you come in and you attack me and then I swarm you with my squirrels and now I get a double attack with like, because she almost never gets a double attack for any value.
Yep.
It's always a maneuver to actually get my squirrels there and then attack. And I mean, the crazy thing is she could play a mean fatigue game. She can.
Oh yeah.
But just peters out, I think, with stuff.
I mean, as you saw, I took it to fatigue against Sherlock. Like, if I had a little bit more health, so if I had taken less damage throughout the game, like, maybe I could have taken out Sherlock in fatigue, or if I would have been able to maybe get some more squirrel attacks, because I didn't draw these last 2 until really late. But yeah, like, she does have a mean fatigue game, other than her stupid weakness of forced double maneuver turns, right, when you're out of range.
Yeah.
That
I mean,
sucks.
if they do end adjacent to you, I mean, you can technically offensive do one of these and then do it, which is cool, because if they do a defensive movement, then you can get the squirrels to chase them down. But it's generally like you need to have that, you need to have kick butts, and you need to have a squirrel card like all in your hand at the same time. And I think you saw it and the viewers saw it, like you're not playing with the highest hand as Squirrel Girl. So having all of those options in one is pretty rare. I feel like she's just a couple steps away from being really good, like a solid fighter.
True.
But she's niche. I do think on full map advantage, she's pretty decent, and she can do well in, like, you know, I think she can do well into Yananga. That one's close. We played that one on this map. It's that one's a close one. Because you don't have to worry about feints. So getting like 9 attacks, like the whole, like 3 9-value attacks is just huge,
dude. It's
the interesting thing is that's mostly all that you need, along with some auto damage and stuff here. But Yananga like bombs them every time you do it with the stallion. So it's like it's a neat game of like tempo of like I go in, I smack for the 8 or the 9. Then we back up.
I lose my squirrels, and then
I lose the squirrels. I got to reset. Like, it's a very fun game, but you know, niche stuff like you know, Wukong. That one's pretty even from my experience too. It all depends on if you take an Ox form or not, which it always is.
Right.
But because you're able to stop him from spawning clones with your dudes, it's actually huge. And you get 2 of these for 8 damage, and then 2 of these for, so this is a total of 12 damage. So then you just need to kill clones from then on and maybe hit with these. So it's actually, it's not hard for her to find her damage. She's just got to find her opportunities.
Right. Interesting.
So, but yeah, there's some fun matchups. She can actually, depending on the map, she can do okay into T-Rex because she can stop ripples. So she forces her to always like have to boost if your squirrel positioning is on par. But then there's Thrash, which is just dumb. So it kind of, you know, if you can yank one of those with that. That was on Rex Paddock, which is good because it's long and big. But on Hanging Gardens, I don't really see it going that way for her.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, she's got
anyway,
like niche uses, right? And she's a fun gimmick, right? She's
yeah.
not meant for competitive play, really. I mean, you could try, but it's going to be a nightmare with all the squirrel positions.
Yeah. I mean, and I do love her thematically. And there's few things that I love more than like surrounding my opponent with squirrels and smacking with a 9.
It's
like
awesome.
That's absurd damage output. Like, you know, a maximum of 9, normally 7 to 9, I think is a fair assumption.
Yeah.
And you got 3 of those, and then you got these, which is like really good. A 4-value cancel and ignore, which is a good feint punish, right? If you feint reds, like, you know, what is it? Eyes? Is that eyes?
Yep.
No.
For little red?
Yeah. If you feint that, you're still okay with that because you take 1. You're okay with that versus 3 with whatever you defend with. But taking a 4 or, you know, a 4 punish is really good into a feint.
For sure.
And then the squirrels just being monsters with bites of steel in this. Just it just feels too
a lot of damage.
Too like two-dimensional. I feel like it doesn't flow. I feel like it's like, okay, am I doing something with Squirrel Girl this turn, or am I doing something with my squirrels?
That's the biggest thing. Yeah, the Squirrel Girl versus the squirrels like action, they each have like their own separate turns, and it's really clunky because you're so limited by A, your movement because of your horrible boost values and being melee, and B, your very limited options of cards that the squirrels can actually use. So the combination of those 2 factors, it just makes it really, really clunky. And if you happen to get everything perfect, cool, that's great. It can work out, but on average, you're just gonna struggle.
Yeah, and it is very matchup dependent. So yeah,
sure.
But I agree with you. And if you are able to hit a feint with nut work, just even 1 feint, she can do really well into, you know, a number of the cast on just her, like a good map. Because like I guess we saw it in my semifinals. Very few fighters can take 9s and live, and Moon Knight is no exception.
Yeah.
So very if she can land even 2 of those, she can generally close out the game with the rest of her stuff.
For sure. So yeah, overall, I mean, I think it's Sherlock favored, like as is most matchups, you know, because it's Sherlock. But putting up a fight like this that is that close is pretty dang good. So definitely better than that Sattler matchup that we did. And I could even see Squirrel Girl winning against Sherlock in tourney if it was something like Conquest where you get full counter pick advantage, right? So
Oh, absolutely.
there's definitely something here. It's a fun matchup. There's a lot of cool interactions. But Sherlock is Sherlock, so what are you going to do?
Exactly. What are you going to do?
Yep. All right, man. Well, GG's. Thanks for playing with me as always. And hopefully next time we'll be getting some King and Country fighters up in the mix.
Dude, I am so excited for that. I will say, ask the Patreon people. I would love Black Panther for this. That I'm for whatever reason, I'd be very drawn to him. I know that because of my Daredevil experience, everybody is going to tell me, or I'm going to be playing Winter Soldier in tournament, but please pick Black Panther because I love Black Panther. The artwork is so cool.
Yes.
His design, even though it's so linear, feels so unlinear in my opinion, and which is weird. And to me, it's because whatever he discards changes how he and the opponent need to play. And I don't know if enough people are realizing that yet. So yeah, we'll see, but I'm
fingers
very
crossed. I would love that too because he's definitely my most hyped up for the new set. So yeah, I would love that. So we'll see what happens.
I don't know what a good matchup would be though, so we'll leave it up to the Patreon folks.
Hopefully,
but I don't even know what that looks like yet.
I think pretty much every one of these have been pretty dang good matchups, so I have faith in them that they'll pick a good one. So
absolutely,
can't wait to find out. But yeah, man, GG's. It was great playing with you. Thanks again.
Yeah, sounds good. I will talk to you later.
All right, man. Take care.
All right, you too.
Bye.
Bye.
All right, guys, there you have it. That's going to be it for Matchup of the Month, May. And as we saw, Sherlock did manage to win both of the games, but there were opportunities for Squirrel Girl to win. And if things just go a little bit differently in some of the interactions or the card draws a little bit different, she can definitely get the win over Sherlock. And that's very impressive seeing as, you know, the disparity between the tiers of these two fighters. So pretty impressive, actually. And it's a pretty fun matchup. So I wouldn't recommend all Squirrel Girl matchups because I'm sure there are some that are just abysmal. And also, depending on the map, it might be really bad for Squirrel Girl because being able to move only 4 spaces max is really a hindrance to her gameplay. So you want to play on like a tighter map, but if you do, she can hold her own. So that was really cool to try out, and I hope you all enjoyed it. So I'm looking forward to the next one. But if you like the video, be sure to give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel if you're not already, and consider supporting me on Patreon so that you can cast your vote for Matchup of the Month episodes in the future and get to see what you want to see, right? So I really appreciate the support from everybody. Thank you for being patient with me with these videos. Like I said, I am going to be catching up with them shortly. The class I was in was just a 6-week class, so it's wrapping up pretty soon here. And then I'll have a little bit more free time come July. So hoping to get caught up on all this stuff. But again, thank you for your patience and your support as always. So that's going to do it for this one, everybody. But thank you all for watching. I'm ZeroSkater12, and I'll see you next time.